Good morning.
Good morning.
So our primary thing we're doing today is we're looking at modifier projects. Some students have sent it to me, emailed it to me, or what have you, and then I have to go pick up one today, and then it just has been a variety of different ways. I got Alexis's emailed, Rebecca's was emailed, and I think Miss Lisa's going to share hers with us. Oh, I love it. But I want to show you as best I can Sydney's project. She made a watercolor painting.
That's cool.
Oh my God. Wow.
So she texted me and said, if I make a watercolor painting out of my project, will you hang it in the classroom? And I said, absolutely, I love that. So see, everybody's just different creatively. It's just, it's just whatever you like to do. I actually made a little one, but I just made specific. So I'll show y'all mine in a minute. I did Google Slides because that way I could share it with you easier. But Becca actually made me a little list, and the printer was running out the ink, but this is Becca's, and she got every single one in, 22 through 99, with their descriptions. And I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see Alexis's. Can y'all see that?
Yep.
Ooh, pretty.
So I know, I love the colors. What am I? This is there. Oh, I got to move it over here. So this is her Modifier 22. We're just going to I'm not going to go through every one. That's 99. But she put the definitions and facts about that. Alexis, you kept a copy of that on your computer for yourself, right? Just in case you want to go back through and see. Oh, then it starts. She did different transitions on each one. Good job, Alexis. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yep, I like it. Good job, honey.
Okay, Miss Lisa, show us yours.
All right. Let's see how I can do this. All right, this is just like a handbook I made. It's called Modifiers. I did it in some color. Got table of contents.
She even did a table of contents.
Yeah. I did the symbols in there too. What I did on the modifiers, wrote the number in different color, and I just made it a little exciting, different for color purposes. I don't know if y'all can see that, but it's like a little handbook I made. It's got the number of the modifier and what it is. The discontinue procedure, like for number 53. And then I did the, 1P, 2Ps.
Oh, you even went further. Yeah. Well, let me ask.
I just made it like a little handbook.
That's great. That's a wonderful idea. That way it's handy. Handbook handy. Ha, ha, ha. Y'all, I think I'm funny. Well, and honestly, that's easy. You can bring that to work with you. You can, whatever. That it's like you said, it's really a neat little resource to use.
But like I said, it's just I made it like a little handbook. So
All right, well, y'all ready to see mine?
Sure.
It's not very big. Y'all know I like to be extra, but I just focused on evaluation and management modifiers. We had some questions about Toolbox 1 in our chapter, and which if you haven't been through any CPT codes yet, it would be a little confusing trying to understand modifiers. But they wanted to know, well, how would you know if, you know, that evaluation and management code, the 99383 that was on Toolbox, how would you know that that needed a modifier? Well, it's difficult because I haven't been through any of those CPT codes yet. So I decided that I would just make my little project on simply E&M modifiers. So let's see if I can get there. Oh, I got to get out of Alexis's first. Well, y'all, I tell you, I'm usually a bit more prepared than this, but Okay, so like I said, I just did mine on the modifiers that you would use simply for E&M purposes. And E&M stands for Evaluation and Management, and that is the largest part of our CPT and the one that's most often used by doctors because that has our doctor's appointments, you know, well checkups, counseling, and things like that. It's just the largest and the most commonly used. So the first modifier that I have up here is modifier 25. I used this all the time when I was doing cardiology coding because a patient would come in, let's say established patient came in, and it was just a simple visit and it was 20 minutes. That would be a 99212, but then they had an EKG in the office too, which is a 91310. Yeah. Anyway, so if you send that out without a modifier on it, they're going to bundle those two codes together and say no, they go together. But on the 99212, I would have to put the 25 modifier on that to tell them this was a separate service from the EKG. Does that make sense?
Kinda.
Okay, you're having two things done when you walk in the doctor's office. You're having your checkup, which is the 99212, and then you're going to have an EKG. Right. Even though it's two different codes, the third-party payers want that modifier on there because they want you to say, stop. This EKG does not belong with the examination.
Right.
That tells them that there's another separately identifiable CPT code they need to look at. So here's modifier tips. Modifier 25 is defined as a significant, separately identifiable evaluation and management service by the same physician or other qualified healthcare professional on the same day of the procedure or other service. And then I know this is a little bit fuzzy, but this is an example of a scenario. An established patient is seen for a periodic follow-up for hypertension and diabetes. During the visit, the patient asked the physician to address the right knee pain, which developed after recent yard work. The physician performed a problem-focused history and exam of the patient's hypertension and diabetes, and he adjusted the medication. Then the physician evaluated the knee and performed an arthrocentesis. So what did we do? He had a patient visit, right? And then the doctor is going to do the arthrocentesis. So you would use 99212 with the 25 modifier, and then you would use the 20610 because that was the arthrocentesis. So that's an example of how you would use the modifier 25. Any questions? Nope. Okay. And then this is a Modifier 25 notebook, little chart, not notebook. I'm stuck on your notebook, Miss Lisa. So these are the questions that you could ask yourself. Was the procedure performed on the same day as an E&M service? So if your answer is no, Modifier 25 is not appropriate. So you see that little arrow over? If your answer is yes, what was the E&M significant and separately identifiable? You would say yes. Does the procedure performed have a 0 or 10-day global? And usually it's no. But or yes, it does. But you know, it just, that gives you an idea of why you would use a Modifier 25. The global stuff is stuff that we're going to get into when we start the coding, but that means the package. For example, if Miss Lisa, say that you went in and you had to have a cardiac pacemaker done.
Right.
That was your procedure. And so you got your pacemaker done and everything is good. You get out of the hospital, but all of a sudden you start having palpitations and you have to go back to the doctor again for the palpitations. And it's because your pacemaker is not set properly. Why would you need to pay for that again? You've already had the surgery and paid all that money for the pacemaker surgery, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that global period for different CPT codes, only a few really have 90-day globals. And you'll find out when you begin coding in your specialty which CPT codes are going to have a global. But anyway, getting back to that, you shouldn't have to pay because that pacemaker isn't set right, should you?
No, I wouldn't want to.
Right, so that's part of the global package. Okay, Alexis, you had Phelan, right? You paid the doctor to deliver Phelan, but you need to go to your post-operative visit to get everything checked out. That post-operative visit is paid for because it's part of your package.
Right.
So that's what global periods mean. It just means the time in which you have to see the doctor about that specific problem. Okay, now let's talk about Miss Lisa. Let's say that, let's use your scenario again. You had your pacemaker, but you came down with a terrible cold and pneumonia.
Okay.
So you go to the doctor. Do you have to pay for your cold and pneumonia?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's not really associated with your first chief
With your
complaint.
pacemaker, right? It's not associated with that pacemaker, is it?
No.
So there you go. Anything having to do with issues with that pacemaker. If you got an infection in your suture, that would still be part of, well, it actually wouldn't be part of the global because it's not really about your pacemaker. It's about the integumentary system. So, you know, it can get a little confusing, but it also is like a fun puzzle too. But that's basically what a 25 modifier is. Do you guys understand that a little bit better?
Yeah.
Good. So modifier 24. My teacher's skirt's a little short, but I like the picture. Modifier 24 is reported as follows. Amend only to evaluation and management codes. That means the 24 modifier shouldn't be put anywhere else except for evaluation and management. You use only to report an EM service beginning the day after a procedure is performed by the same physician during the past 10 or 90 postoperative days. The patient's record must document that the EM service was solely for the treatment of an underlying condition and not for postoperative care. Okay, so now after we've read the words, let's look at an example which will help. The patient is 2-week status post laryngectomy for cancer and is seen in the surgeon's office for E&M service to begin chemotherapy for the next 6 weeks. Documentation supports an established visit level 2114. The code is 2114 with a 24 modifier. So the chemotherapy is directly related to the cancer, right?
Right.
The same doctor is performing okay, let me read it again. I'm trying to pick the right words. I see it in my head, but I can't get it out of my mouth. Let's see, do I have another?
Right.
The patient is 2-week status post-laryngectomy for cancer. So she had a laryngectomy 2 weeks ago and is seen in the surgeon's office for an E&M service to begin chemotherapy for the next 6 weeks. So the chemotherapy is not part of the laryngectomy. It's part of the cancer.
Right.
So, but I'm looking at if you use only report an E&M service beginning the day after a procedure performed by the same physician during the past 10, okay, so 90 days post-operative. So you see the difference. So she had the laryngectomy 2 weeks ago, right?
Right.
So she's going to see the doctor to begin her chemotherapy. So that's within that 10 or 90 days, right?
Right.
So that's why you would use the 24. We're going to get some more practice on these. We're just trying to wrap our mind around them to kind of say, okay, do I need to use it now? We're going to have more examples as we go through the evaluation and management chapter. So don't worry if you're not exactly understanding. We're going to have more examples and more practice in using the modifiers. So this is the little map. I'm not going to read it. I'm just putting it up there for you guys can come back and read it later. The maps only, reading them out loud, it does not translate as well as when you read them on your own. Okay, now modifier 57. Amend a modifier 57 to an EM code when the physician evaluates the patient and during the evaluation determines that a major surgical procedure needs to be done. Major is defined as a procedure with a 90-day follow-up care. This is not the same history and exam that a physician would do for a pre-op portion of a surgical package. Okay, so Miss Lisa, you went to your cardiologist. This is before your pacemaker. You go in for an office visit and you are struggling with AFib really, really bad and nothing they do is helping. And so he says, we're deciding that we're doing surgery and you're going to the hospital. So that is a decision for surgery.
Right.
Say that I go to my dermatologist because I have a huge boil on my bottom. And she says, you have to go straight over to the surgical center to have that lanced. I know that that's a funny example, but you know, I mean, that's a decision for a surgery.
Right.
Okay, so here's our example. A 70-year-old patient presents to the emergency room with an acute abdominal pain, right lower quadrant. After a detailed history and exam, the decision is made to take the patient immediately to the OR for an appendectomy.
Which is appendicitis, right?
Well, it didn't give us exactly appendicitis, but I would assume that if you have an appendectomy, you would have to have appendicitis. But I'm not exactly sure. So there you go. That was my project.
Pretty neat. Well, more informative than mine was.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
I do have a question about one of the modifiers.
Okay, which one?
79. Unrelated procedure or service by the same physician or any qualified healthcare professional during the postoperative period. Now, when I was looking up like facts and stuff, this one struck me, and that's why I put it in my slide. It says when using modifier 79, it is important to keep in mind that this is a modifier that resets the global period.
Right.
A new postoperative period begins when an unrelated procedure is billed. So that would 79 would completely restart your global period.
I'm trying to think of an example. Okay. So you had Phelan, right? And you get like a 30-day global in that. But, oh, that's not a good example because that's an, let's think.
If I had complications to my C-section?
No, because that would fall under the same postoperative. That has to do with your C-section. But let's say that, what else can be?
I had my nerve damage.
Well, that would be a different physician. I'm trying to think of one with this. Okay. Let's you. You put me on the spot and now my line goes blank. 79, 79, 79. Okay. I'm in a car accident and I break my leg. It's an open fracture. And my surgeon goes in, performs the surgery, resets my leg, and sends me on my way. Okay, that's that particular scenario. That's that particular CPT. That's that claim. That's what went on with him. Okay, so he's walking out of the hospital after his procedure, and he falls and hits his head, and he has a broken nose that has to be repaired, but he goes back to the same surgeon to repair his nose. It's the same physician, but a different claim, it's a different claim. But when the insurance get those and they're close together like that, it's kind of saying, oh, wait a minute, this doctor just did this. Was this the same part of the car accident? No, it's completely separate. So you would amend that, you would put a 79 modifier, and that just tells them it's an unrelated procedure, but it's by the same physician.
Oh, okay.
It took me a minute, but I got there, right?
Right.
I got there. Were there any code or modifiers that jumped out at you guys that you liked?
I like 50.
What's 50?
Bilateral.
Oh, bilateral.
Yeah, because it's easy to remember.
Yeah, bilateral. Let's see. We're going to be using one in anesthesia. 23 is going to be unusual anesthesia. I like that. That's going to be fun when we do that one.
Started.
Huh?
That's where I started.
Anesthesia.
Yeah,
I know Alexis only has to the 4th of September with us, and then she goes on individual study. So, and then we have some more anesthesia modifiers. P1 is in P2, P3, P4, P5, and P6. But we'll be using.
Those were so hard.
Yeah, because you have to decide what is systemic disease and where that falls in. This time I'm going to go through that a little. I'm going to hit that a different way. Yeah. And then you have your F codes, which are like or modifiers. Why do I keep saying codes? Like modifier F9 is your right hand, your 5th digit. Why wouldn't they just say pinky, huh? But anyway. One that we always had trouble with when we were coding is 66, a surgical team. Because you stop and you think about your third-party payer. If they can get away with paying one doctor instead of 2, that's really what they want to do. So I can remember listening. I never had to worry about surgical teams, but some of the other coders in my department did. And boy, they would be rushing to get those claims in first. So their doctor would be paid first so they wouldn't have to fight for the payment. So it was lots of documentation that goes into proving that there are multiple surgeons and what they're doing, lots of medical records, lots of special notations and things like that.
Sounds like a bunch of bureaucracy.
If you notice on my slides, a lot of my slides tell you if you have to have extra documentation to file with that code.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually gonna print yours out. I haven't done that yet. I wanted to do it in color, but I don't know if they're gonna let me. There's so many of them. But I would love to have that in book form to add to. But anyway, so you guys are gonna be taking your test on Monday on chapter 10. It's not gonna be hard. Remember, you can use your manuals. Always use your manuals on these tests. I'm going to go ahead and do our week at a glance because we are moving into my favorite chapter. I don't know why it's my favorite, y'all. But Monday we're doing chapter 10 exam, and we're going to do a test your knowledge. It's on careercoders.com, and it's just a little thing where you're going to go in and see how well you know modifiers. Alexis looks so sad.
You talking about on that study stacks?
No, ma'am. This is something totally different, and this is for Monday.
Okay.
I'm doing our week at a glance for Monday. I'm actually for homework going to put up my first lecture for chapter 11, E&M evaluations. I know, I'm sorry. It's my favorite chapter out of the book, and I'm sad because Alexis is going to be leaving after that, but there you go. And really, okay, all right, I know my time is running out. Just give me a break. But on Tuesday, we'll have another lecture, and then it's going to be just, y'all know the drill. There's going to be lectures, and you're just working your way through your chapter, and you're doing your exercises, and you're submitting those. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're just going to be working through this very large chapter. So you guys know the drill on that. And then, let's see, I've got to get over. There's not a test. We're in this chapter for 9 days.
Okay.
So there's not going to be any projects. We are going to, on Friday, one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to create a study guide detailing the levels of E&M service that include examples from the CPT. So we'll be talking about that this week. And as we're going through these lectures, you're going to see where you can make yourself a little study guide. But that, again, is just for your reference. And I like to look and write it and read it, and then that seems to stick with me.
I know one of my favorite projects that you did with us with these were the manila folders.
Yeah, well, I showed, yeah, you can do lap books. You can do the little manila folders and make informational pamphlets out of them. Didn't I show that example on when I said about modifier projects? I showed how you would fold it. Yeah, we did those all the time in class, and everybody, several people said they bring them to work with them. They just have them in a binder, and they seem to remember exactly where everything's at because you're being purposeful about what you're putting in and where you're placing it. It just helps you remember. That works in my brain anyway. So yeah, and when I get on and tell y'all about create a study guide, you can use it like a lap book. You can make it like a project. However it works for you to be a study guide. But knowing where to find what you need in the E&M guidelines is going to be so important. And remember, your guidelines are, let me see, are in the green. Everything that I'm lecturing on, even though it's in your step-by-step manual, it is right here in your CPT manual. So when you're taking your test and you don't remember something, it can be found right here. I'm going to warn you, there's a lot of information. Bear with me to get through the information because all of a sudden at the end of the lecture, like lecture number 3, there's going to be a straight line drawn to why those things are the way they are. So it's all going to make sense, and I love E&M. It's so much fun. and it's important to understand, but I do want to tell you something. Learn the information, learn what you're looking at, but 9 times out of 10, your physician chooses the E&M level of E&M service he wants you to code. 9 times out of 10, he does. But I'm going to tell you why it's important for you to know. Red River Cardiology, 3 doctors. 1 doctor always did a singular code. Another doctor did codes according to time spent. And the 3rd doctor, I'm not going to do that one. But you had a choice of 2 doctors. 1 did the same code almost every single time. The 2nd one actually paid close attention to the timing. And so he may have a 99213 and a 99214, very seldom 99215, a 99212. Which doctor do you think made more money? The one that had a variation in his CPT codes. So I was able to go to the one that would choose the very same code. It seemed like every single visit he was doing a 99213, when sometimes he needed to do the 99214. And then sometimes he needed to pay closer attention to his timing. I was able to go to him and say, hey, doc, this is what we need to update and change. And when I gave him the statistics on how much more, because the other doctor was paying closer attention to his time and not just stuck in saying 99212, 99212, you know what, the same thing all the time, just because that's what he was stuck doing. He did variations in his code. He paid closer attention to his time. But if I didn't understand E&M codes, I wouldn't have been able to help him actually get more money.
Did you get a pay raise?
Right.
Anyway, okay, do you guys have any questions for me?
This is the next book I go into
Yes, ma'am.
in 10 days.
It is, but you're going to think it's fun. It's a fun book to do. So,
I'd rather
all
just-
right. Anything else?
Hello?
No.
Love you too. I want to tell you guys, thank you so much for taking the time to get on Zoom. It really does mean a lot to me to be able to be in front of you and spend time with you like this. So, bye, Miss Araya. Have a good day.
She was so patient waiting for you to say bye so she could come over.
Aw. You guys have a great weekend, okay?
Say bye-bye.
Be good, Araya. See you guys later. Let me know if you need anything.
Bye.